Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 155 of the Junkies Podcast. Joining me today is Jason Marburger of Fireball Tool. Jason builds my favorite welding and fabrication tools. His squares, clamps, and shim kits make fabrication and layout so much more easy and accurate. The tools are so easy to use and help me improve accuracy and material deflection while welding. Jason was originally an iron worker and a millwright turned tool inventor. In today's show, we discuss his business expansion and upcoming move, as well as some of the new products he's working on. Today's episode is brought to you by Rockmount Research and Alloys. These electrodes and wires are designed to weld stronger and last longer. These electrodes are specifically designed to perform in the toughest, most unpredictable conditions. They help you reduce re-welds and keep your equipment running to save you money and give you the space to tackle the next challenge. Check out Rockmount Welding for their full line of maintenance electrodes and abrasives at rockmountwelding.com. Stop redoing the same repair multiple times and get the job done right the first time with Rockmount. We're also brought to you by Everlast Welders. I just did a quick stick demo for an I-beam splice using the 161 STH. Coming in at just under $500 right now, this is a great machine for anyone looking to get into stick or TIG welding when you don't have to spend a fortune to do it. You can check out Everlast's full line of welding machines and plasma cutters at everlastwelders.com. Check out their YouTube channel too for some of the in-depth tutorials. Make sure to use Arc Junkies in the comment section at checkout to get that free Nova foot pedal and TIG torch when you buy any machine that comes with a stock foot pedal. That's a $100 value. We're also brought to you by Fireball Tool. Step up your fabrication game with Fireball Tool today with some of their squares, shims, clamps, and vices. These tools are designed to outlast the user. They're something you can pass down to your grandkids one day. And right now you can save 10% just for signing up for their newsletter. Check them out today at fireballtool.com. All right, let's get this thing kicked off. Fire up your machine, drop your hood, and turn me up 5.
You're listening to the Arc Junkies Podcast. Helping you make every weld better than your last with each episode. And now your host, Jason Becker.
So welcome back to the show, man. How you've been a busy guy since we talked last.
I'm always going 24/7. Something to do all the time.
You got a lot of projects going on. I think you're expanding your shop a little bit. You're inventing some more stuff. So kind of get everybody caught up on what you've been doing.
Well, this is the busiest time of year for Fireball in general and myself, just because the holidays and products just are always great for gifts. And I see a lot of people buying my tools for others, which is good. And then on that side of things, this is, I always look at the new year to implement or look forward to bringing or displaying new tools that I've been working on this whole past year. So generally the first 2 months, I like to unveil a couple new tools that I've been working on. So I'm getting ready to roll those out. And then I'm currently trying to transition out of my current workshop and into something else that's a little more suitable for my needs at this moment in time. So I'm gearing up to move all my machinery, which I'm not looking forward to.
Yeah, I would imagine not, man. I've moved, my house. And you can put everything in the small boxes, throw it in the back of a moving van or a truck, or you call some buddies over them and you could kind of entice them with some pizza and beer and stuff and kind of get it knocked out in a day. But you've got some really heavy equipment, so it's not like you can just back the old pickup up and throw it in the bed and drive it over to the new shop.
No, not at all. I'm anticipating the move probably to take me about 3 weeks. To get everything out of there. The biggest one is probably the water jet. It's going to take a specialist to help me break it down and somehow palletize it and then move it to the new facility.
Okay. Is it a pretty far distance from where you're moving to?
It's probably 20 minutes away, but it's mostly highway, so it's not too big of a deal. And my tech says that if we don't have to split the tank of the water jet, which I don't know if I have a video where I talk about how the water jet's constructed and how it's assembled, but it's actually 2 half shell pieces that are bolted together with a silicone gasket. And you have to then suck all the garnet out of the bottom of the tank and then undo all the bolts. But he says if we can get the whole tank out the door all in one unit, it'll probably save 2 days of installation to put together. And I think I'm going to coordinate the 2 forklifts on one end and try to do the Austin Powers thing and get it out the door and onto a truck. Yeah. So part of me wants to film this process because it's kind of interesting, but I don't know if people will watch it because it's boring. I don't know. It's you know how filming goes. Is the filming going to get in the way versus do I just get the job done and just show everybody the new space?
Yeah. So I've had to do the Austin Powers maneuver a couple times. We used to build when we did prefab metal buildings. We'd stand all the columns up that would go down the middle of the building, and then we would hang sections. So we would actually stand up 2 of the rafter beams and then connect all the bar joists because a lot of it was bolt up. We'd bolt them all together and then pick them up with spreader bars and 2 forklifts. And it was really, I worked with a guy that was really, he was really smart as far as, the way that he ran his jobs and stuff. And it saved so much time versus setting the rafters up there and then shooting the bar joists up there one at a time and then kind of walking the beam and packing them up. He's like, the guys are way more productive on the ground. It's a lot safer to do it this way. You just got one kind of, I don't want to say sketchy, but it was a real precise lift, with 2 off-road forklifts to get that thing up there, and you got to be in unison and in sync to try and set it up there. But it was a huge learning process.
It is. It's a ballet to get those pieces up there. And the first, like you said, the first couple ones are probably a little sketchy and a little, how are you going to do this? But after that, then 2 people working together that know each other, you almost don't even have to be voicing commands. You can just almost look at each other and communicate. It's pretty amazing what 2 people can do just by some body language.
That's exactly how it ended up. Because he would know without even us saying a word. We talk about the pick before we did it. But as soon as we got in the machine and just started moving, we could look at each other and tell kind of what each other were thinking. It's really cool how you work with somebody long enough to kind of develop that relationship and you're inside of each other's head all the time.
Yeah, that's great. So that's what I'm working on. And so to give you a little bit of background, I haven't really come out with a moving video or why I'm moving, but my facility now, my lease is up. My 2-year lease. I can't believe I've been there for 2 years now. And that space is adequate, but what I'm finding out is that my neighbors are a little bit noisy. So trying to film in there is kind of a problem. They're constantly running forklifts and I'm struggling with some audio issues. And then the space actually doesn't have enough power. I'm barely struggling to keep my equipment running as it is. You're unplugging cords and you're just kind of making it work. And since my lease is up, I want to take the opportunity to move into a place that's a little more set up for what I want to do. And so I'm going to be leasing a new warehouse, and then I'm going to retrofit it with an office. I don't actually have an office at this point in time. I actually have a card table that my computer and everything's set up on, and I've done all my work off that card table. So it's kind of funny that you don't need something really fancy, but you can get the work done. And so having an office in this new space is just going to allow me some privacy, especially if the water jet is working. It is kind of noisy, to where I have a little more controlled environment for my computer equipment is all exposed to the elements, and that's not good for it either. And it's a little bit bigger. The space I'm in now is 5,000 square feet. This is going to be 7. So it's going to be a little bit of an upgrade, and I plan on staying here for quite a while.
I think, having an office space too, it kind of puts you in the mindset, how you shift gears. Because when you're out in the shop, you kind of got one mentality going on. Once you get into the office and you got to start working on logistics and doing the books and all that stuff, it's just a different mindset from one task to the next. And I think by changing your environment, it may help improve productivity. Not that you need any help in that, because you're a very productive dude. but I think that it just puts you in a different mindset, because now you're not distracted. Like me, man, I've got severe ADD, so I'm like, the dog in the movie Up, like squirrel, and they like freaks out. I'm the same way. So if I come out, because I do a lot of my, I do all my podcasting in the garage, I kind of want to separate this space to where I can kind of get in the zone of podcasting. Because, I'll be sitting here trying to do some of the edits or upload the audio or do something like that. And I'm looking over and I'm like, oh man, I gotta rearrange that. I gotta put this in here. I should probably finish this other project that I got sitting on the workbench. And it just kind of puts you in a different mindset when you can change your environment.
Absolutely. And so I look forward to having an office and that privacy, but this new facility, I'm kind of setting it up a little more geared for videos. I found that I enjoy making videos, and as much as I enjoy building and inventing things, I think a video is building something also. So the space is going to be a little bit more set up for studio-like. Is that a good word for it? The lighting is going to be a little bit better. The sound, I want to make sure the sound is good so there's no echo in there. I'd like to invite other makers in and participate with some builds with them. So much kind of like maybe a welder build off, some fun stuff. I enjoy doing things for myself, but I enjoy working with others too. And I want to share this space and my tools with them also. So it's like, I'm going to have Jason come on, Jason and Jason versus each other, and maybe we can have a little contest or have some fun together and invite you into the video. I think just that would be so fun to do.
That'd be really neat. And I mean, like, especially it's weird because like as a consumer of YouTube and watching some of the other people on Instagram, watching them build and make and everything, and then actually kind of getting into the maker community, it seems like a really tight-knit group. I think we talked about this before, but like when we met over at Temple, Texas, or when I went to Temple, Texas, like all the makers got together, and it's not a competition. Everybody's sharing, here's how I do some of the things. Here's some of the tools that I've used in the past. Here's some of the things that make my video quality better, or, they're just so open with each other, and it's a really cool group to kind of be a part of. Everybody's just so willing to share the information, help each other out. It's not competitive. Everybody's really open and, 100% communication. It's just really cool how tight knit the group actually is.
Yeah, it is amazing the amount of information people are willing to share with you. And I want to pass that on, and I want to learn from others too. And I've learned the best way to do that is just to work with somebody else, or have some natural competition, which would kind of be fun. So a good scenario would be like, if you were to come up here for a week and work in the shop, I think we'd set a project for ourselves that both of us wouldn't have any idea what to do. Something that's totally random and would really push our design skills. It would be like, here's a canoe and a chainsaw. So build a chainsaw powered canoe, and both of us would have the same problem, maybe a 2-day build time, and we could build 2 vessels and see if they're seaworthy and which design is the best. To me, that just sounds like so much fun, and it's a project that I wouldn't do because it has no purpose whatsoever but to stimulate my mind and your mind and be able to use the equipment in a fun way.
That'd be really neat, man. You got me definitely interested in that. I might have to jump on a plane soon.
Yeah. But so I want to invite other makers and other welders. And I don't plan on just inviting just other YouTubers. I want to invite people that are on Instagram or reach out to me and they have maybe a special set of skills and they want to show off. I would love to bring them onto the YouTube channel and showcase their skill set with a project. So
go ahead.
So that's what this space is kind of. Eventually, I'd like to get there, and that's why I'm kind of gearing it to a little bit more of a studio-like process.
Okay,
so it's a balance: machining, machinist, building, and studio. I don't know if it's ever been done before, but
I haven't seen it done anywhere. And that's really cool. And like you said, kind of being able to build it from the ground up and learning from your experience over the past 2 years in your current environment, what you have to do to make up for poor lighting and the different audio and stuff, because that's always the challenge when we shoot videos is, man, the lighting sucks.
Yep.
It's not set up for shooting. You know, it's set up to be a warehouse or a manufacturing facility or, you know, whatever, you know, it's not set up ideally for shooting video.
Yep. And a good example of that is to give the viewers or the listeners some context. The shop I'm in now, if you were to measure the light at the floor, I have 60-foot candles. And that is a measurement if you're surrounded by basically candles, how many candles would it take to light your space up? And I have 60. And that's about average for any workspace, like a supermarket or office space is about 60 to 80. And it's considered adequate if not good. A well-lit space is considered right around 100 to 120 foot candles. And that's like a football stadium. If you were to play football in the stadium and on the field, that's what it would be. So it's pretty bright. I did some testing with my own camera equipment, and I found that on my worst case settings with my gear, worst lens, worst ISO, that I needed close to 300 foot candle to be efficient.
Wow.
So this new space will have 350 foot candles of lighting in there throughout the whole space.
Now, how are you going to tackle that? Just more lights or specific types of lights?
Yep. I have, it's a company called RAB. It's a high bay light, LED light fixture that draws 1.5 amps, I believe, and puts out some ridiculous amount of 5,000 watts of lighting. So I'll have actually 60 light fixtures in this new machine shop, which will be, according to the electricians and the manufacturer, this will be the brightest building in the state of Washington, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
by a large amount. It says the most light he's ever seen in the building is 125 foot candles, and mine will be about 350. So I'm fireballing it just like I do everything else.
Yeah, just like everything else.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
But I'm tired of dragging a light around with me wherever I go.
That's a pain in the butt.
Yeah, and if there's two people working in the same space, it's impossible for a cameraman to set up lighting for each person and follow them around the shop. So the lighting is going to have to be broad and bright to accommodate that. So these are just some of the crazy things that I'm working on in this new facility that have bugged me in the old one. So, and
then what are you going to do, like, as far as audio? Are you doing any like soundproofing or dampening, or do you have noisy neighbors where you're going?
Nope. I have some space in between the buildings, so I don't really have to worry about that. The shop is insulated, and so it kind of does help the sound. It's exposed insulation. I call them like the white pillow, where it has, you've seen them in all the commercial buildings, and that actually really does help with the sound instead of hard walls everywhere where you have to worry about the sound bouncing around.
Okay.
And that's just the little tiny things. And as you can see in my Instagram posts, I'm building a mezzanine in there. So I'll have some overhead storage so that there's no what I call junk on the shop floor that takes up room for machinery. So that'll be nice.
I've been following your Instagram stories, and I was like, wait a minute, is he back into structural steel, or is he like doing some side work? Because I really wasn't sure exactly what you're doing. I mean, I knew you were building a mezzanine, putting in all the structural steels, and I love the stories that you were doing because you were kind of going in depth on how to use the mag drill, working safely by yourself, setting beams and stuff, just off of a forklift, especially when you're trying to tuck one I-beam into two other I-beams, how you have to finagle the forklift to get it in there, all the while shooting video from your cell phone and doing Instagram stories. So I thought that whole process was pretty neat.
I kick myself for probably not setting up a camera and documenting it for YouTube video, because there was some interesting stuff in there. But as you know, how do you be productive with what your task you're trying to do and shoot a video? It's extremely difficult. And I don't think the audience sometimes realizes how much effort goes into making a YouTube video.
Yeah.
At least for me anyway, I like good quality. So I put a lot of effort into camera angle and audio and lighting.
Right.
It goes a long way.
Yeah. I was talking to Brad Frazier last week about, doing that and how, what you see in the video, it's like a quick 20, 30-minute video, but you probably got 3 or 4 hours invested into it because you've shot the same task 4 or 5 times to get the different camera angles that you want. You're going back through and redoing some of the audio and the narration and voiceover work. You got to, put something together, so you get one shot of it, and then you got to take it apart so you can get B-roll of you actually assembling it, just to make for good video. Because, we've all seen the videos where somebody just sets up a still camera somewhere and does all the work, and you can't see the detail and what they're actually doing. So you kind of got to get both sides of that spectrum so they can see how you're aligning things and fitting things up and actually, making it work.
Yeah. Yep. But yeah, I love ironworking. So I took the opportunity to run some beams in there. I did some calculations on just framing it like a wood, like a house almost. But with my span that I was like, man, I can only put maybe a couch up there. So I was like, I'm just going to spend a little extra money and put some good beams up there. That way I can actually store some stuff and even have a good load rating. And I just love working with iron. So it's kind of my material of choice. So
now, is that something you had to get like designed and engineered and actually calculated, or, I mean, from your experience, I mean, what it's going to hold.
Yep. No, I did not get any engineering on it done, but I did some basically rough calculations on, you can find information on a beam spread. So to take a wide flange beam and over a certain length, it's going to have so much deflection and it can hold this much weight with this much deflection. So I found some of that information out, and then I did some calculations from there. And I also wanted I wanted my finished floor, or my structural floor that you're going to be standing on, to kind of be the finished floor. So I went with actually trailer decking. So this mezzanine is constructed just like a trailer or what a shipping container would be like. And it's called Apatong wood. So, and you can look it up. Just go to trailerdecking.com. And a typical finished floor in your house, you're looking at about $2.50 to $3.50 a linear foot. And I could do that with that same cost on the mezzanine, and it's my structural floor at the same time. So it saved some money there. So it's going to be a really neat floor, and it's going to look really cool when it's done.
Yeah, I was going to say, not only is it going to function, but it looks really well too. I was watching how you kind of built your wedges on site to so you can keep everything nice and straight and flat throughout the duration, because like you were saying, if you get off a little bit, on this end, if you're a 1/4 inch off down here, you could be a foot off by the time you get to the end, and it just throws the whole aesthetics off. And then, now your hardware is not lining up with your supports, and it just becomes a real pain.
Yep. Yeah, so there's that. So it's wood. Wood moves. So you have to squish them together or let them kind of relax a little bit to keep your dimensions. But I'm going to be starting on the stairs, and the stairs are going to be I don't know, what do you call them? A serpentine, or a kickback, or a
switchback
system.
Okay.
It's going to be interior of the mezzanine. So I'll probably film that, because there's some challenges with stairs. I think stairs everybody tries to avoid, but and some of my thoughts on best stair width and height and what is comfortable and how do you assemble it. So I'll probably film that for a YouTube video, and it'll be kind of a soft introduction into moving into the new shop.
Okay.
So, and maybe I can include some of the tips and tricks that I shot on the Instagram stories, so that everybody can refer back to them again. Since that was fairly popular, I had no idea that people were going to be interested in how to lay out beams for structural steel, or how to cut a beam with a torch. I didn't really think that it was going to be that popular, because it's so common to me. I did it every day. I didn't realize there was so much interest in that.
No, it was great. I really enjoyed watching them, because it was kind of like a flashback, and I was reminiscing of the times that I was on a job site, because I miss ironwork. I miss the structural steel. I really do. But I really love teaching too. So I don't know, where I would give up one for the other. But I mean, the structural steel is really cool. I've always had a lot of fun doing it. Every day was a new challenge. You're learning new concepts. Of course, there's always new tools coming in to make your job and your life a little bit easier. So that's always a fun part too, is learning how to work with different tools, types of materials and stuff. And it like I said, it was always a different challenge. So I always had a lot of fun doing ironwork.
And you get to see something quickly. Like, it was like, wow, there is a floor up there within a few hours. It's amazing to see something grow really fast with structural iron. And it's, we called it show iron in the trade. It's like, let's get the show iron up for the bosses, so it looks like we did something today. But it's rewarding, I guess, to see something come out of the ground, and it's like, okay, we're doing something cool here. And I like that part.
Yeah. No, I used to sit in my truck at the end of the day, because like you roll up, first thing, and there's nothing but a concrete slab and a pile of steel. And at the end of the day, I mean, it's like, wow, we've got the entire, all the columns up and all the rafters are set, and we're getting ready to start working on the second floor tomorrow. And it's like, wow, you just kind of sit back and admire what you've done. And within a couple of weeks, you're pulling off the job site.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty. If anybody's ever interested in getting into an occupation where there's probably always a job, looking to get into ironworking, and find a steel erector in your area and tell them you want to get signed on. They'd gladly take you. You'll probably be spinning bolts for the first week or two. And what I mean by spinning bolts is you're taking the erecting bolt and the nut and the washer, and you're assembling them so that the erectors can put them in their bags, and they're a nice little package, and they can just unspin the nut and put them in the hole. But that's where you start, and then you'll gradually get into maybe erecting, and then getting into welding after that, and seeing if that's how you want to get into this profession.
Yeah, I've got a lot of hours of assembling bolts under my belt. I'm a pro.
I think we've all been there, done that. It's not something we look forward to, but it's part of the job.
Yeah. Grab the keg of bolts, keg of nuts, and just start making them up.
Yep. Oh, I forgot about the keg of bolts. Yeah. Those things are heavy.
They're heavy as hell, man.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with a keg of bolts is, what would you say? It's probably 12-inch cylinder, maybe 16.
Probably, somewhere. I would say a 20, 25 gallon bucket, essentially. Or no, not even that big. It's probably maybe a 5 or 6 gallon bucket. Hell, I've got one sitting right next to me.
There you go. That's right.
Yeah, it's about
a cool can.
It's about a 6. That's my trash can from a shop. It's it's a 6 gallon bucket, essentially. Well, depending on how many bolts you get. I've seen them. We used to get them in plastic jugs, and that sucked, man, because like by the time they're offloaded off the truck, they're in a pile. The plastic one sucks, but the metal ones, they're great, and the cans, they're very useful once you get done stuffing all the bolts.
Yep, and so you put them in the scissor lifts for rod cans and trash, and they just keep recycling them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to talk about ironworking, and it's fun to do some of that stuff on the mezzanine. So look forward to maybe seeing a video about the iron stairs that are going up and some of the challenges with that, and maybe I'll get into how the flooring is fastened to the iron. But it's going to be exciting to see that finished. So
yeah, I definitely want to check that out, especially when you start going into the detail about doing stairs. I did stairs right when I first got into structural steel. That's kind of where I started at, was setting all the stairs. And then, once we got to a point where, we were kind of installing them faster than they can be built, we went back to the shop, and I learned how to do stair layout. And that presents a whole nother unique set of challenges as far as understanding rise over run, and where you need to start and where you have to end and how you have to get there. And then you got to start taking into all the different codes that they fall under, because the riser can only be so high depending on the state you're in, and the run can only be so long, and then where all your handrail has to line up. So there's a lot of stuff to it, and I always had fun building stairs.
There is, and in my case, I kind of have a little bit of freedom to where I get to then pick the rise and run that's comfortable to actually walk up.
Yeah.
Instead of, I do need to have some space constraints of where it needs to go and where it needs to end. But if I can choose how wide the stair tread is and how high it goes, I'm going to pick the optimum. And I kind of like I call it a 7-11, but it's actually like closer to a 7.5-inch rise and a 11-inch run. And I almost feel like that I don't have to skip stairs. Mm-hmm. And I think once you've built stairs, you start analyzing all the stairs you're walking up all the time. And I have a little tiny tape measure that I keep on my keychain for my truck keys. And it's a little tiny baby one. It's like a 6-footer. And I'm constantly pulling that thing out and measuring people's stair treads and walking up them and feeling what they feel like. I don't know. It's something weird that I do. But a 7.5 rise with like an 11-inch run is pretty good. So
that's something I'm pretty sure all welders can relate to, because, you know, that's what I tell all my students that are coming to the program. Is like, once you learn how to weld, everywhere you go, you're going to analyze welds. It doesn't matter. You know, you're walking up a set of stairs, you're going to the courthouse, or you're going to an event or something like that. You're going to check out the welds and you're going to look at stuff, especially, you know, wait till you go on the, get on the ride over there at the, you know, the local fair. Uh-huh. You're probably going to jump off pretty quick after you see what kind of bubble gum they got on there.
It's pretty scary.
Yeah,
I know. It's like I took my kids to Disneyland last year, and I was the same way. As an adult, I don't really. The fun is that not magical anymore as far as the rides go, but as far as the analyzing the rides and the mechanics on how the ride is working, that's what impressed me more than anything.
Yeah.
Like, okay, how is this bolted together? Are we going to be safe? How many pins are holding these wheels on? But as a kid, you don't care. You're just, whatever happens.
It's all about Mickey and Donald and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I'm the same way, because we've got, I'm probably 30 minutes from Disney. So usually when we're not dealing with COVID, we used to go out like every Friday night. And
fun.
You know, the kids would go out there because that's kind of like when all the tourists, they've already, you know, they've had their week. And we go in the evening. So like after work, we'll eat dinner at the house and then we'll head over to Disney. Most of the people are they're done, man. They're leaving for the evening. You know, we're getting in there. You get on all the rides a lot faster, but that's kind of what I did. And then even when I was working out there with the ironworkers, that was my thing, is like I would kind of go around and look at everything and how is this connected? What makes this move? What's causing this to do what it does? And you start getting into the mechanical stuff of it. And some of that stuff is just like modern marvels, man. It's really cool how they've put all that stuff together.
It is. It's pretty magical. It's great living in the world we do, where we have computers, and I enjoy the computer design of things too. So I'm impressed by some of these roller coasters, the loads, and how they can just go off and build that and know that it's going to work and be safe.
Yeah.
It's pretty impressive that the day and age we live in. But what are you continuing to do? Weld.com?
Yeah, I'm going out this weekend to knock out some more videos.
Oh, good. Wonderful.
Just trying to come up with... Can
I get a sneak peek on what you're going to be filming?
I'm trying to come up with content right now, so if you got some ideas. We tried to do
I don't...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's a topic that I know that I don't think has been covered at all on any YouTube videos, is puddle welding. I know we kind of briefly spoke about that last time.
I talked to the camera guy and I was like, we got to find some B-decking and weld washers. So they've been on the hunt for them. So I don't know if they were able to collect them or not. Trying to find just like a 2 or 3 foot section. I am going to do, I know we're going to do a horizontal to vertical column connection, and then a vertical column splice, just kind of show everybody on kind of a smaller scale. Obviously, you know, you're not going to bring in a massive beam when they're like a couple $100 a foot to kind of just weld it up and throw it in the scrap bin. But just to get the idea out there, because a lot of people, and I don't know if it's more of a European thing or if it's just, you know, lack of knowledge over it, but everybody wants to know why you use a backing strip. So when we did like the D11 tests and all that stuff, they're like, well, you know, why wouldn't you just open root it? You know, if you can't open root it, you're not a man. And it's like, this isn't up to me. This is in the code book. This is what they're calling for because it's more repeatable. It's built for production and safety, not to show how great of a welder you are. So that's one of the things I want to do, is show how to cut like the rat hole inside the I-beam and put the backing bar in there and all that other stuff. And just kind of show people the practical, you know, here's why we test this way, because this is how it is in production. When you actually get out to the field and you have to make this connection, there's 9 times out of 10, there's going to be a backing bar on a full pen weld.
Right. I think that'd be a great topic. Another one that came to mind the other day, welding on the beams out here, was there was say you're doing a multi-pass like knife plate connection where the weld calls out for maybe like a 1/2 inch or 5/8 weld bead. I had an argument with my foreman at the time that he said that a larger welding rod, such as like a 3/16, doing maybe 2 passes, puts more heat and stress into the material than a multi-pass with like an 1/8 inch on a lower amperage. So you've seen it before where the knife plate and maybe the flange starts to pull, right, from too much heat. And maybe it's a Mythbusters video. Is more stringer passes, smaller rod, lower amperage, better for the structural iron than 2 or 3 passes with a big rod? Not only for speed, but are you going to cause less distortion to the material? And my argument was bigger rod, 2 passes, get in and out, and off you go. But I almost got kicked off the job site because I argued with about that. These are just some ideas. Stringers or big heavy weld beads? Is it better? I don't know.
Okay,
There's something
to look into
there about that.
I would say you'd have to measure the actual heat input based off of your voltage, amperage, and travel speed and all that stuff. So we could probably put that together and run some calculations on it and figure out, is the heat input the same, compared to the deposition of the filler metal?
And the distortion of the material. If you started out as a 90, where did that flange end up? How far did it pull? Did you cause more damage for the guy coming behind you, such as the steel stud guy? Did you warp that flange so bad now his steel studs are going to be kind of weird how he has to attach his track to it? So just remembering how the guy coming after you is going to be affected by what you're doing. I mean, that's kind of where that comes from. But I'm in favor of big weld, one big pass, get it in and out, and let the weld shrink one time and off it goes. But I kind of want to prove my my old foreman wrong, but I don't necessarily have the channel to do that. That's something like this is a perfect topic for weld.com. Stringers or big lumpy weld and be done with it.
Yeah, we did a stringers versus weaves a while back and actually did the mechanical testing on there as far as like the Sharpie V-notch and the tensile pulls and all the guided bend tests and the macro etches and all that stuff. And I mean, I remember that. I was rooting for the stringers because that's kind of what I was always taught, especially doing ironwork. They never wanted us throwing big gaudy weaves and stuff on there. So I've always been just a big fan of stringers. And I know stringers, allegedly, they're harder to run. So a lot of people, they prefer to use a weave pattern because it's a little bit easier. And it looks cleaner and, once you're done. But I mean, I think once you get into it, you can lay down some really good stringer passes and make them look really nice. And then they're more structurally stable because you have a lot less heat input, so you're not pulling out the structural integrity of the material itself, putting big gaudy welds in there. But if you've got thicker material, I mean, definitely you could run like a 3/16 or 5/32 or, some large diameter rod in there, or even some of the big, the flux core wire, 1/16 and, 064 and all that stuff that people are running. That stuff's fun to play with too. If you want to throw some serious metal down, like 052 wire, 1/16, the big boy wires, that's fun to play with.
It is. Yeah. Lots of heat, lots of amps. I love that stuff.
We had, I got like 5 of my students from my previous class, almost half the class. They all want to get into ironwork. That's what they were, kind of geared towards once we got into the level 2 program. So I had them all outside on the, we ran the Lincoln 305Gs with the LN25 suitcase, and we were running the NR233, the seismic wire. And that stuff is not forgiving at all. And, I had a couple of them pass their test on 1-inch test plate. So they got their 1-inch unlimited qualification for 3G before they graduated from the program. And it's something that they understand that once they leave, when they get into the union, all the welding qualifications that they earn at the school, that's something that they're not transferable. They're good while you're at the school. it shows proficiency. But once, wherever you decide to go in life, any employer worth their salt or that actually knows what they're doing, they're going to retest you anyway. But at least now they have the understanding of exactly how to do it, what to expect. It kind of gets rid of some of the pre-test day jitters that they're going to have because they have an understanding of what to expect and how to run it and how the test is going to be performed. So I think it helps out a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. What other good topics? I'm trying to think off the hand.
I want to talk about your vise.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great topic.
That thing is awesome.
It's a crowning jewel of the shop floor. That's for sure.
You got to put it like right in the center of the new shop, man. It's impressive.
It's the fidget spinner for welders because nobody that comes into that shop, regardless if it's the UPS or the FedEx guy, when they drop off a package, they just swarm to it, and the first thing they want to know is what is it, and then the first thing they do without even give me time to answer, they're turning that hand wheel, and they're moving the vise back and forth, and just the smile on their face, like this is awesome. It's a pretty neat piece of an art and function.
I was gonna say it's a functioning piece of art because it looks like it kind of reminds me of a classic car. You got like a wood grain steering wheel on there. You got the pinstripes and all that. It's candy apple red, and it's just insanely. Functional to an extent.
It's insane. You can say it. It's ridiculous.
You definitely fireballed this one.
I think how would I put this? I'm always trying to challenge myself. So welding, if you're just to weld the frame up and then spray painted it black, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, that was easy because I know how to weld and I know how to black spray paint. Then it's how do I push myself and my skill set to my next level, which pushes me out of my comfort zone to help me get better. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where that vice is for me. If I'm going to choose to build something, what's going to make it what's going to make it challenging for me? And so that's kind of where that's come from. Like the wood wheel was extremely challenging. There's just so many components to it. I like working with wood, but I don't like working with wood. Mm-hmm. We all know why. And then to say, okay, I want to nickel plate it. Okay, well, I need to know how to nickel plate. I've done small nuts and bolts before, but I've never done something big. So there's some challenges there. How do you nickel plate something? And then, of course, the first thing you do is go to YouTube and you learn something. Mm-hmm. And then you try it out on something real life.
I love YouTube for like all the information that it has on there. It's so easy. Like I learn visually. I don't read well. I've said this before. You give me a set of instructions that are written out, and it's going to take me 4, 5, 6 times, longer to do something. But if you show me how to do it, or if I see somebody do it, I can replicate that. I get. I can understand that. So YouTube's just made life so much better for people that kind of want to get outside of their comfort zone and get into, woodworking or metalworking or crafting, mm-hmm. making, designing, all that stuff. It's all free.
Yeah.
Just click on it. What do you want to do? Click on it. There's information on there about everything.
There is. It's like start going down these rabbit holes. It's like, okay, if you're not, so you learn about nickel plating, and then it gets me into that. Then it's then what do you want to do if you copper plate or all this magic? But I guess what the viewer needs to understand is when I build something, I need to do it, and it inspires me to maybe make a product. So I just don't want to sit on my computer and just design something for no reason. I want to have a purpose. Mm-hmm. And so an example of that is I liked the nickel plating process, but I didn't like how the DIY setup really is. You got this tote. I was like, couldn't there be a product out there where it's kind of like a washing station or a cleaning station for your car parts, where you flip a lid open, you flick a switch, your solution is there starting to heat up, and then you can put your parts in. There's little hangers. It's like it's designed for nickel plating, and it's just this little tiny cubicle box, and then you shut the lid, turn off the light, and then you walk away. It's like, how come there isn't a product like that you could purchase for custom car guys, motorcycle guys. Why do you always have to send your parts out? So that's on my wish list to build a nickel plating station for my shop, and that might inspire a product. So that's where I come up with a lot of my designs, is just by making stuff, So, and then from the viewers, they give me feedback too, like, oh, I would buy that if there was a little tiny eye wash station that I can go nickel plate my motorcycle parts in. That'd be cool. Especially with plasma cutters today. We can make some awesome parts with a plasma cutter that could go on a custom motorcycle, right? in the DIY car guy or DIY garage of today. So that's where I get inspiration from.
Yeah, there's so much you could do with it. And you've got all the tools to make it happen. The water jet and everything. I love seeing, I love what you've done with the video work that you do, how you've got the camera mounted up so you can kind of see it. You're like following the head around of the water jet and, moving the material around. I like those shots because it shows a lot of the cool stuff that, a lot of people take for granted, just moving material from one place to another or picking something up off the table. It adds a little bit more depth and effect to what you're actually doing.
Oh, good. That's great feedback, because how do you, as you know, I struggle with what is the viewer going to find interesting and what is what's not going to hold their attention, because it's common to them.
I think it's good visual filler for transitioning from one frame to the next, because you're not cutting one spot out and be like, oh, what happened in between there, So it's kind of taking them along the journey through the process.
That's good feedback. I'll continue with that. That's great.
So what do you build next? Because I want to talk about your half clamps, because that's freaking brilliant. Because I had a gang box full of half clamps because. Especially hanging up perimeter angle on like concrete walls. That stuff's always a pain in the butt because it never lines up with the in-bed plates and you got to force it in a little bit. So that's when I first learned how to make and build a half clamp. And, they're good for about 2 or 3 uses. And then because one of them's cast iron and the other part's steel, they're constantly separating. But you've developed a way to do the same thing, but now you can use it on steel, stainless, aluminum. Half clamps before, they're always limited to, carbon. You might be able to get away with it on stainless, but the weld's going to definitely crack. So hopefully it's not like a heavy load. But now you've got it into a 1x2 configuration with your half clamp with square tube.
Yep. You're exactly right. That's exactly where the inspiration came from. It's from ironworking and using that, cutting a C-clamp apart and utilizing a tool that's not meant to do what we're trying to make it do. And you're exactly right. How can you have one tool that can help you do multiple things? And that's kind of my concept. And what material do we have in the shop that's pretty common or standard that I keep a lot of? That's my favorite material to ever build anything with, is 1x2 rectangular tubing. So I always have at least 2 or 3 sticks on hand. And then how do you make it strong? So if you look at the clamp itself, it has a really long spindle, which is reminiscent of a C-clamp. C-clamp uses the really long spindle, so you have a lot of travel, reach down into holes. You can push without having to adjust the locking mechanism on your bar. And then how do you get the forces that you're after? And that's kind of where the 1x2 is a really strong piece of material. You can use a piece of solid if you really, really, really wanted to. Think about a solid 1x2 bar stock. That's going to be really difficult to bend. Yeah. So that's geared towards more of the ironworking, metalworking trade. But I could see that some of it transitioning into some woodworking. If you've got some big hunks of wood and you really need to move them, you could use those clamps to do that. Yeah.
No, they're very functional. They're very. I seen that and I was like, man, that's freaking brilliant. And it's weird. I've always seen the problem, but I've never taken it any further than this is what I've always used. So this is what I'm going to keep doing. We did a video on building a half clamp back on weld.com a while back, just to show people how to do that. And A lot of them didn't understand the concept, but I mean, we're working in a shop on a table. It's hard to get onto an active job site and show you kind of torquing down, putting stair pans in place with a half clamp, or hanging perimeter angle, or getting, different material to sit just right when you're doing rough openings for HVAC units and stuff. I mean, that's primarily where I use them all the time, is to make things flat, that, because material comes in, it's twisted, it comes off the truck, and, it's been shipped from one state to the next, so it's got a natural curvature in it, from sitting on the dunnage, or it's been sitting out in the boneyard, and it's all kind of twisted, and you got to form it and shape it back up, to get it in right. And, you just come up with different tools along the way.
You do. Yep. So I'm glad you see the use for that, and you're my target customer for those. But they're beefy, they're heavy, and they're designed to last forever. So that when you pick one up, you're like, oh my gosh, this thing is a tank. I need to be extra strong to hold this clamp up. But that's how I build my tools. I'll overbuild them, and I just expect you to hit the gym and get stronger. So
I mean, you don't have to hit the gym. You just got to drag your clamps around for a little bit.
Yeah. But
try moving
I'd
the
rather
vise.
have it be overbuilt and not break than have it be just on the verge of being strong enough and let you down in the field. I'll always rule on the side of heavy. So.
Right.
But that's what else? I'm continuing to work on. Do I let the cat out of the bag? A production bench vise that's similar in design to my red DIY vise that I built probably a year and a half ago.
The square tube and the plate one.
Yep, but this is an actual real cast version of that. It's a little bit bigger. It's actually going to be a 6-inch vise instead of a 5. And I'm going to claim it that it's going to be the largest opening 6-inch vise on the market. So it should open up to at least 14 to 15 inches. And I'm looking to have a bench vise that is probably the highest clamping load and something that would last for 200 years. So you can only imagine if I'm going to fireball a vise, what it's going to look like.
I seen the last one you fireballed, the bench vise, not the massive guy with the steering wheel, but the last bench vise that you did, and then the video that went along with it. That thing's really cool. It's a different, same concept, different design, different outlook on it. How do you make it better? And I think you kind of captured that with that vise.
Do I give you some numbers, some stats on it? So the vise, that one weighs 95 pounds. The one that's going to be the production version is going to weigh, drumroll please, 245 pounds.
Jeez.
This is kind of, I'm calling it the hardtail vise, and it's a legacy tool that I call it a legacy tool, where you buy it once and you don't ever worry about ever buying another bench vise ever again. And for the cost of what an iPhone costs, that you will never have to worry about throwing this away. And how to put that into perspective, I go through a $1,200 iPhone every 2 years, right? That just gets tossed out basically because it's wore out, battery doesn't work, whatever. So I hate throwing things out.
I'll tell you what.
Shoes,
so here, I'm going to give you some
tires and cell phones.
I'm going to put in a request. So if you can make the jaws out of like the hardest material you can find, only because I need to get 2 of these vices that you're going to do, because I at the school, if you want to figure out if a vise is going to stand the test of time, put it in a welding school for a year or 2. Yeah. Right before we left, we've had the same vise. I mean, it's like it's a cheap one. You get it Home Depot or whatever, but it's students are going to tear things up. So you don't necessarily go out and buy the best because they're going to figure out a way to break it. And my last class, they broke the vise.
Wow.
So they constantly do a lot of grinding and stuff. They don't understand. Don't grind the vise, grind the material that you're planning on prepping. So whenever they're prepping test coupons or anything like that, they're always tearing up. And I know the jaws are replaceable, but they've already wore past the removable jaws that you can replace those. And I gotta,
sheesh.
Long and the short of it, I got to buy a new vise when I get back to the school on Monday.
Well, the The jaws will be replaceable. I'll probably sell 3 different soft jaw for it. Probably like a good medium, mild steel jaw, and then of course a hardened set so that you can pick or choose. But it'll look similar. It's going to look very traditional looking, but fireballed, of course. So I'm excited for that. I think we're all, if we're in mechanics or welding, we all love vices. I don't know what it is about a vice that we're attracted to, but when you see mine, you're probably going to, it's going to be the centerpiece of any welding station or cornerstone of your welding table. You'll probably get a lot of compliments on it. So
I'm looking
stay
forward to
tuned for that. So looking forward to that, probably coming in, hopefully sometime in the springtime, I'll be ready to unveil that product.
You know what you might want to look into is, because you're always innovating and building new things, and that's all kidding aside, that's the one thing that I really like about Fireball Tools is and I said it in the intro to the last episode that I did, is they're, like you said, they're legacy tools. They're built to pass on to your grandchildren, and they're going to probably pass them on to their kids. It's not, something you just go pick up off the shelf and you use it periodically. It's something that you're going to use all the time if you're a fabricator, when you're putting things together. If you want to improve accuracy and speed and reliability and stuff, those are the type of tools that you're going to want to use. But you should look into building vices, or not vices, anvils, because
anvils. Yeah,
nobody's building anvils anymore. So what we have is what's left over from way back in the day, and most of the people that have an anvil, they've got it. It's a lawn ornament. It's a decoration. And they don't want to sell it. And anybody that does want to sell it, it's like $3 or $4 a pound.
Or more.
Yeah, or more. I mean, I'm talking like for the smaller guys, 150 pounds, somewhere in there. And the prices continually go up as more and more people get interested into, everybody wants to build a Damascus knife. Everybody wants to get into blacksmithing and stuff like that. So I think if you launched a line of Fireball anvils, I mean, you'd probably do pretty well with that.
I'm totally down for that. I mean, if there's enough people that sign into me, say, "Hey, Jason, make an anvil," I'm down.
All right, so everybody shoot Jason over at Fireball Tools a DM on Instagram and tell him to build an anvil.
And say, I'm in at what weight? Are we going for the big boys, 150, 200, 400 pounders? What are we going for? I'm all for it.
I think a 200 pounder would be ideal. I think the one that I have over in the corner, I want to say it's $150. And I want to restore that one. My when I went up to visit my family last year in northeastern Ohio, my grandfather actually gave me an anvil. So I was going up there to buy one. I was going to look around while I was up there and buy one because it's for some reason it's easier to find them up north. I was going to pick one up there, and he's like, "Oh, I got one out in the shed. Go grab it." And I was like, "Okay." So I got that one, but I want to take it over to the school because we have a surface grinder. And I want to kind of redo that surface there. So I'll probably have to do a little bit of welding on some of the parts that are broke off. I mean, it's an old. I mean, it's so old I can't even read the letters on it.
Oh wow!
But
hey, that's another good video right there. Is repairing your anvil for welders. I mean, that sounds like something people would be interested in. And another good topic I think for you is cast iron. Welding cast iron. I know when Will Stelter, I don't know if you've watched the Alex Steele channel, but he broke his power hammer.
Yeah, he's
ended up tipping over and snapping off. I volunteered to help him put it back together again, and he actually asked me if I could weld it together. And I'm pretty confident that I can weld it together. And there was a lot of YouTube comments that basically said that no, it's impossible. And I always love a challenge. And it's already broken in my mind. It's already broken. Why not look at this as an opportunity to increase my skill set and try something that I've never done before? The error of safety comes in, but that can be addressed too. Mm-hmm. And as a welder yourself, if you're making a good weld, if you just know that this is working or not, and then if it's not working, you stop. But welding some cast iron, I think that's always that would be an awesome topic for weld.com.
We did one. The only thing we could actually find was a skillet, like a cast iron skillet. As far as cast, so we did a video on that. I do a different variation where you do some preheat, and then I hit it with I use a nickel 99 rod, but I bust the flux off of it and use the TIG welding process for like smaller detailed work. I've made several repairs doing it that way, and none of them have ever broke. So they've lasted. So it can be done. And I just teamed up with the folks over at Rockmount, and they make some really good cast iron welding rods. So I might have to hook you up with that, and if you want to try those out.
Absolutely. And then it comes down to the process. I like the approach from the scientific point of view. So if you're going to show the viewer maybe some cast iron welding, maybe you could try a nickel 99 and maybe like a nickel 50%, and then maybe a preheat and one that's not preheated. Maybe the non-preheated is small welds and it's a cold weld per se, where you weld a little bit and you just don't let it ever get hot. That's maybe how a large casting would be welded together. These are just huge scientific process. I know this take a long time to shoot and edit.
Getting into metallurgy.
To me, it's just extremely fascinating to me. It's like, okay, can you weld cast iron cold? Yes, you can. And here's how you do it. And let's compare it to maybe a hot weld. So maybe 2 coupons done 2 different processes. Let's bend and test it, see how they came out. That's another topic. What other pieces I'm trying to think of something cast iron that you could weld together. I'm trying to think of something in a car that you could take some car parts and
I actually reached out and asked a bunch of people on my Facebook if they had any cast aluminum, and somebody sent me one of the ladies that I used to work with over at the Ironworkers Union. She used to do all the office administration. Her husband's into cars and stuff and rebuilding, and he had 2 aluminum casts from what the hell was it? One of those electric vehicles. I don't know if it's a Chevy Volt or something like that. It's all electric vehicle, but I guess like part of the drivetrain is cast aluminum. And when I got it, we snapped a piece off, and I was like, this cast aluminum is actually so pure that it's really not cast. We like cut a piece off and welded it back on. It was like, okay, that's not going to make for a good video because everything went great, and it's not like any other type of cast aluminum you would get any other time. Is very very clean. It was weird. But yeah, I think cast iron, that's something that would be fun to kind of get into a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a highly searchable topic. There's just like behind me, I have welding books, and I'm self-educating in my spare time. And but yeah, always, like I said, reading out of a book versus seeing it done in person is this is 2020, 2021 now. That's how we're going to learn.
Yeah.
And even if it was a failure, I would still like to see it, so keep that in mind too. If it didn't work, that's still okay.
Yeah. Just got to figure out where you can get like cast iron coupons. So like everything would be the same. So when you tested it, everything would be scientifically done.
That is a really cool, interesting concept. What you just said just gave me an idea. How cool would it be to actually have cast iron coupons to where you can actually practice cast iron welding? I think that would be, and what the material is, and it's somewhat clean and pure as clean and pure as cast iron can be. But I think that would be fantastic if I could just order a cast iron coupon to do some practicing, maybe you say you got this new welding rod. Let me try it out on this coupon first before I go weld on this power hammer that's 100 years old before I go destroying it. I like that idea. I should come up with we should just make some coupons to do for people to practice and use. I think that's great. I should do that.
There was the guy down there at Temple, Texas. He was pouring, he was making the mini anvils, but that was all cast out of old brake rotors and stuff. So he was smelting them right there and then pouring them. I don't think it'd be difficult to get you like a little 1/8" 2x6 coupon pattern in the mold and just pour it.
Now that I'm thinking in my head, I think it'd be cool if you could buy a brick. Pretty much, it'd almost be like a brick or something that's maybe 1 inch, 2 inches tall, and maybe 3 inches wide. So someone wanted a cast iron piece, they could use it for raw material, or they could slice it in their bandsaw.
Kind of like a billet.
Like a billet, and they just slice it and then weld them together and have some fun with it in practice. That way they can cut it to the thickness that they're trying to replicate and see how much heat and control that's doing. I think that's a great idea. Why not? I just need somebody to do it. I wonder who we can get to do that.
There's got to be some. I'm sure we could come up with somebody in the maker community that could make billets out of cast.
But I think as a welder, you should continue to push yourself and push your skill level. So if that means, hey, I'm an awesome stick welder, I'm an awesome MIG welder, I should probably go practice cast iron welding this weekend, because you never know what's going to come through the door.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be prepared.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. This segment is brought to you by Strong Hand Tools. Fabricating with Strong Hand by your side just makes fixturing and welding so much easier. If you're looking for a new fabrication table, check out their Rhino Cart. There's thousands of different ways to fixture your parts for repeatability, and the table comes with a 66-piece fixture kit. Check them out today at stronghandtools.com/ArcJunkies. This segment is also brought to you by AHP Welders. I just had the opportunity to use their new Alpha TIG 203XI with Rapid Set. They put a ton of upgrades in this machine, including a water cool port on the back, an all digital user interface, and Rapid Set, so you spend less time on settings and more time under the hood. Check them out today at ahpwelds.com. Let's get back to the show. That's one of the things I was thinking about the other day is like I do a lot of the repairs that I do, they're not like Instagram worthy because it's like real welds. I mean, it doesn't look cool. It doesn't have that, oh, wow, factor. But, like if somebody walks up to you and they're like, hey, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars to do this job. It's not great, glorious, beautiful work, but yeah, it's going to make me money. So I'm not going to turn it down. I mean, that's most of the work that I do is a lot of repair work on stuff that, people just need a welder to fix it. And I'm the guy that everybody knows. So that's kind of how I run a lot of my side business, where I pick up different welding work. It's not, the really clean, cool stuff, brand new manufacturing that everybody's doing.
Mm-hmm. No, that's neat. I think you're right about that. Just be available to the public, and you can make money with welding. Yeah. I think that's neat. But yeah, cast iron, that's a huge topic. I'd say continue to explore that. And maybe you can say, hey, this is inspired by Will Stelter's power hammer breaking. I think that'd be fun too. Can it or should it be done? Well, let's just do some practice and see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Are they, they're not relatively close to you, are they?
They're about 5 hours away.
Okay. That's not too bad.
It's not too bad. No.
It's kind of like driving to Miami. Well, for me.
Yeah, exactly. But I was actually really, really looking forward to repairing it. I know Will is, I think he puts a lot of time into that machine, and now that it's broken, he's lost some of his momentum. And when he, feels like he's ready to tackle that project again, we'll probably revisit it again. But what's your first thoughts on repairing that large casting? Would you go for it, or would you say, just scrap it? And what's your first impulse thought? But I mean, I don't think I would scrap it. If it's a success, I've learned something and my assumption was correct. If it's a failure, I learned probably even more, and I need to go back to the drawing board and kind of figure out what went wrong, why it went wrong, how to prevent it from happening the next time, and then just keep going at it until you get it right. And it's just going to be a huge learning process. There's very few things that, a lot of people bring me stuff and they're like, hey, can you fix this? Everybody else says it's screwed up. I'll give it a shot. I mean, if it's on its way to the scrap bin, so if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, I'm going to learn some stuff, and we'll recoup a little bit of the money on the scrap cost. Yep. I like that. That's my mentality too. Hey, it's already broken. I'm going to learn something from this and educate myself.
Yeah. So. I mean, unless it's like wheels on somebody's vehicle, I won't mess with wheels. I've seen, I've heard too many stories of like professionals, having failures on that stuff. I probably wouldn't put myself in that position, but yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to tackle a lot of different projects that it's on its way to the scrap.
Yeah. No, I think it's neat. What other projects that I'm coming up with? I always have something going on. Most of my ideas are kind of in multiple stages, but look for 2021 to be pretty good for Fireball as far as projects and products coming out. So there's always something new for us welders that I'm trying to come up with.
Mm-hmm.
One other product that's new, the Mantis pliers.
Yes.
Have you?
Those are,
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead and talk about those, because those are really cool.
I haven't done an official YouTube video release on it. They've partially because I don't have that much inventory, so I'm trying to get a second batch here. But they're taking your typical locking pliers, or I call them locking pliers. I really don't want to call them vice grip pliers, but a locking plier that has two equal arms that pinch together. What would you call them? What do you call them?
I call them finger clamps, or the number that's on them is the 11R or for regular, and then 11SP for the swivel pad. But yes. Yeah, I use them, like you get the number 11s, number 6s. That's primarily what I use for the most part.
Yep. So taking that idea, because I use them every day, but what bugged me about them is that I want them to function like a C-clamp. And what that means is I want one leg to be short and one leg to be extra long. So now I have an offset and I can flip it any way I want. So the short leg, you can, it comes from, hey, I need to get inside this piece of tubing to hold something down, and I have to switch from that vice grip clamp to a C-clamp because a C-clamp has a short foot on it, or a shallow, what do you call that? Short foot, narrow foot,
we can go
short
with that.
leg,
yeah.
An anvil, I don't know, but it can go inside of a tubing. It has lower clearance, and then you're stuck with using a C-clamp. But I want to design a vice grip clamp that works just like a C-clamp in the same way. And I don't even use a regular vice grip clamp anymore. I use mine because I find it more versatile for two reasons. If I want the clamp to be out of my way for welding, I flip it over and I have a low profile arm that's basically virtually not there. So I can weld right over the top of it. You could rest your hand on it and it's not in the way. And having the taller leg, I can reach over angle iron and get into some weird spaces that I normally wouldn't be able to do.
That's the problem with most of the finger clamps is you can't it's got to swallow usually the table, or, a lot of people weld a piece of angle iron underneath the table for their bracing or the square tube, and it's never in the right spot to where you can actually get the clamp past that piece. Yep.
So when I look at I call it the Mantis plier because it reminds me of a praying mantis, the way a praying mantis's arms are, where this one just, and all my tools have to be start with the letter M. I don't know why, but that's just my thing. But I look at the Mantis plier, and if you look at the center line of where the plier, the hinges are, the handle's actually offset. So you can actually move the handle above or below your working surface. On a typical vice grip, the handle is center line. So you can't, no matter which way you flip it, it's a mirror image of each other. And it limits you in some aspects. So it's like, why are we doing this over and over and over again? When it comes to clamps, I just like having a lot of variety of different ones to suit whatever project I'm working on.
I like how you got the locking nut on there too. That way you can always crank it back down to the same spot. If you know that you're working on a project where most of the material thicknesses are the same, you crank it back down to the area that that's been working throughout the whole project. So you're not fiddling with that knob the whole time.
Yep. If you're interested in more pliers, you can go to Fireball Tool website, and they're called the Mantis plier, and you can check them out. They're pretty, really versatile tools. I think everybody should have at least 8 of them. I use them that much, and I have 2 different sizes, a small and a large.
That actually makes sense because when I bought my clamps, or when I buy them, I usually buy them in batches of 4. So I've got 4 regulars and then 4 SPs, the swivel pads. Same thing with the 6-inch. I've got 4 and 4, and then you still never have enough clamps. So
never.
Yeah, always buy more clamps. When in doubt, buy another clamp.
Yep.
I wonder if, like, on your Mantis pliers, just looking at them, and you kind of gave me an idea as you were talking, if you could kind of combine that with a C-clamp to where, you've got the threaded bolt on one side, if you could come up with the same configuration on the opposite side and just have a threaded T-handle, so you could get a lot more force in that that path right there versus trying to come off the hinge points.
You're on to me.
Oh,
you're on the same wavelength.
Okay.
I have some designs sketched out that are doing similar to what you have there. Because what I find myself doing when you actually look at I'm paying attention to how I operate clamps. And for me, you're fiddling with the adjustment first. You use your grip strength to test, then you release it, you adjust some more, then you clamp again with your hand. So you're basically like moving your hand 3 times. Why can't you just use the clamp kind of like a C-clamp one time, get it snug down, release the lever? So now the release lever is just for applying the forces over and over and over again if you have the same material thickness. But the actual threaded part is where you got all your force.
Yeah.
And you can use it like a C-clamp.
Because a lot of times you get the clamp set just enough to where it holds enough pressure to hold it in place. And especially if you're working by yourself, now you got to take the clamp off. The piece falls back on the floor or wherever. Then now you got to readjust it. And that's too tight. And then you got to loosen it back up. And yeah, if you could just pinch it with just enough force, to kind of get it in place, then you could kind of make the adjustment with like a T-handle to really drive it in.
Yeah. And I know they make some auto adjusting pliers too that kind of take some of those. They take some of that problem and try to solve it. I like them, but I'm still not totally sold on them either. I love the concept. But I think there's still some work that needs to be done to them.
The concept with it's great, but you can't, like, if you have, because they're auto adjusting, if you have a gap in something and you clamp it, it doesn't force the 2 pieces of material together, which is kind of that's what I need a set of clamps for, is because I can't pinch them with my fingers or set a heavy enough weight on top of it. I got to lock it in place. So like the auto lock or auto adjusting, when it just pinches in it and that gap maintains itself. I want to close that up.
And two, what I've also noticed is that the handle opens up a long way to where I have pretty fairly good sized hands. I can't reach my hand around it to grab it because the auto adjustment needs so much travel in the two jaws. So I think there's some linkage that could be figured out there, but that's what I love about tools is there's no such thing as the perfect tool, and there's always an opportunity for improvements, even on my own tools and others' tools.
Right.
So I think this is an extremely fun, challenging business to be in, is taking your concept, like you said, and listening and how do we solve it? So an auto adjusting plier that can crimp tight enough to know that you have a gap there.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty
fascinating. I think that would be the big thing, is if you could make that happen, that would sell. That would get me, because when they first came out, I mean, they're great for small detailed work. I mean, I love using them, but when I need that extra clamping power, it doesn't have it. And I got to go back and use one of the regular old school type clamps.
Yep, for sure. What else, Jason? What else do we want to chit chat about?
You got your magnetic 1-2-3 blocks. So for people that don't know what 1-2-3 blocks are, I didn't know what they were, and actually until I started teaching right next to our CNC program. And now that they have them, I kind of want to sneak over there and build a set when nobody's, when their class isn't it. I don't want to interrupt their class to make tools that I need, or maybe I do, but to make a set of 1-2-3 blocks. So kind of talk about your concept on the magnetic ones.
Yeah, as you know, this is an accessory to my shim kit, is the 1-2-3 block. And working in machining, you're naturally using the traditional machinist 1-2-3 blocks, but they have a whole bunch of extra holes in them that I've deemed unnecessary because I rarely ever use them. And if I use them on the welding table, those holes are kind of wasted to me anyway. But I find myself on the welding table, you're moving material around a lot. So having a magnet to kind of help it hold in place or keep it stood up, because you can potentially knock them over,
Mhm.
and then you're fiddling with them, and then being able to stack them up to create different heights. If you can save time by not running around and cutting a piece of scrap metal and just using your time wiser, just by having the appropriate tool, that's kind of where this comes from. So inspiration from the machinist, and then tweaking it for the fabricator, I guess is what that's for.
Okay.
And probably the most common question is, oh, those magnets are going to get all the grinding dust stuck to them. And any magnet will, but they're a light enough magnetism to where you can brush them off with your glove and get below the magnet sits below the surface. So if there is a little bit of grinding dust, it's not going to impede the performance. And then an air gun just blows them all out too. They're not extremely super strong to where you can't pull them apart from each other or get the dust off of it. The heat, people are always concerned about the heat. They'll take 240 degrees or so before they lose their magnetism. So it can take quite a bit of heat before they're not usable. And then they're replaceable. So you can unthread the magnet and put a new one in. So
I didn't even realize they were replaceable.
Yeah, there's a little Allen screw and you can pop them out. They're just held in by a fastener.
Okay. That's pretty slick.
So try to think of everything.
Yeah. And what you were saying about the metal shavings, because I actually seen it on Facebook the other day. Somebody was really hesitant about using magnetic, accessories and stuff like that because of the metal shavings. And what I've always done is air compressor, number one. I mean, that always works great. But painter's tape works really good. Wrap the magnet in painter's tape and then unwrap the tape and then throw the tape away and all that's gone. Because the adhesive's actually a little bit stronger than the magnet, when you do it that way. So I'm a big fan of magnets. I've got a bunch of magnets in my gang box that I use all the time, especially when I used to do structural steel, because I could take the magnets and actually pin the prints up to the side of a beam or, whatever you're working on. You got a piece of sheet, the wind's always blowing, throw the magnets down and it holds everything up. I'm a huge fan of like neodymium magnets and all that stuff. I've been fascinated with magnets since I was a kid. So I've got quite a few that I use in my fabrication skills.
Yeah, they're priceless. I say that sometimes they're not for everything, but they are. You have to have an assortment of magnets on hand if you're a fabricator. So they are a necessity for sure. But like I said, the problem with magnets, if you're working on aluminum, it doesn't work so well.
Yeah, there you go. So there's a new design concept for you. Is we need to come up with an aluminum magnet.
Yep.
So that way apprentices can quit being sent to the gang box to go get the aluminum magnets. They can actually come back with a tool. That'd be kind of nice. Not that I've ever done that myself.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, so the 1, 2, 3 blocks are extremely popular. Sell them in packs of 8, and I think 4 and 8 they work together really well in that assortment. Instead of just buying 2, you're going to find yourself wanting more. And then I have to add on, if you have an existing shim kit, is small shims, so thin all the way down to we're talking 1/16 of an inch and smaller. So just for those weird gauge sizes, that's what I felt the kit's missing. So just for some weird stack ups, if you have some weird thickness issues there, you can have a little bit more adjustability. So it comes in a little assortment pack for small, thin. I call them thin shims to add to your collection.
Okay.
Oh, what other good stuff is there? I know tools. I could talk about tools all day long. Do you have a tool that you use every day besides a tape measure? Do you have one that you couldn't live without, or do you have a favorite tape measure? Let's just go with tape measure because I use a tape measure every day. Do you have a favorite tape measure? My
favorite tape measure. I just talked to Brad Frazier with Hourglass Ingenuity. My favorite tape, hands down, is the steel body Stanley tape measure.
Okay.
I've tested out. I've tried the Milwaukees, the DeWalt's. They come out with the Stanley Fat Max and all that other stuff with the high vis tape and 13-foot standout. And the steel-bodied Stanley is probably one of the cheapest tape measures you can buy. I've still got mine back from, it's in my gang box at the school from 2010 when I got to the Ironworkers Union. It's probably older than that because I think I brought that with me to the union. And then when I do woodworking and stuff around the house, or I've got a small 12-footer for the school, I got a small 6-footer for the house when I'm doing like little woodworking projects and stuff because I can get down there and get the real tiny measurements and everything. But usually, that's like my go-to tape measure. I've found that seems to be one of the best ones that you can get, especially for the price, because they're like $9. You go to buy a Stanley Fat Max and it's like $30-$40, and you drop that thing one time from 20 foot and it, poof, it's confetti.
Yep. If they made that tape measure, did you ever see the Fat Max Extreme with the really wide foot on the end of it, the hook?
Yep.
Did you ever see those? That's probably a good 1.5 inch, probably wide hook on the edge. And I loved that hook when I was doing iron workers because I could hook the roll or hook a beam or
I actually
side hook it.
I found it. I want to say it was like a Fastenal, but it was 1.5 inch diameter, like a coin. And it had a recess in there so you can actually hook any tape measure that you had because all the ends of all the tape measures are the same. They got that little kind of small slot in there. You could hook your tape measure into it, and it just basically gave you a big disc to hook whatever you wanted to. So it was just an extension. You can put it on any tape measure you wanted. But yeah, grabbing the side of an I-beam because, they got that radiused edge, and it had little teeth on the side. I'll have to see if I can find the one that I had, but it's got like little ridges on there, so it actually grips. So when you hook it to a piece of material, it grips. Because I never liked the magnetic ends. They're convenient for some, but once again, now you got all the metal shavings on there, and then you go to take a measurement, you don't realize you got a 16th or an 1/8 inch buildup of metal shavings on the end, and you're trying to use it, and it throws your measurement off.
Yeah, no, that's great. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, I think I have 3 or 4 different tape measures, and that to me, you're steel bodied with. I love the stick out of the Stanley Fat Max, though. I do use that quite often. Like we need to make a hybrid. Take all our designs about all of them and make a good one.
Right.
It's like I don't even know how to get into making tape measures. That sounds like a whole nother tool to make.
It's just like a simple spring on the inside, or like a coil spring and a whatever body you come up with.
Nope, but the metal one is neat. I do like the metal body.
Yeah, that's what I tell my students. They're like, which tape measure should I buy? Because they want to go out and they want to get the biggest and the best and everything. And it's like, dude, you're spending like $30-$40 on a tape measure. And I mean, I've done it myself, but I still like this little $10 Stanley metal bodied tape measure because, man, I've dropped that thing so many times from so many different feet, up in the air, and it's always been good when I got back, when I got it back in my hands, it's good. And if you take care of your tape measure, okay, here's a question for you. How do you take care of your tape measure? Especially working in the field, you get, when you're out in the field, you got dust and debris and you get mud and crap all over the blade and it sucks itself back in.
Water is the worst in the rain. When you're trying to work in the rain, you reel it in. I don't have a good solution to that. Okay. I just have to stretch it out and wipe it off on my shirt.
I've got you covered. You stretch it out. Same thing, You stretch the tape measure out, wipe it down, get all the bulk, the debris off of it, and then get you like a fine cloth or whatever, or just wash rag, whatever. Spray it down with a little bit of WD-40, and then as you're reeling it back into the tape measure, just wipe the tape and then slide it back into the tape measure. You put a little bit of WD-40 on there, and it puts like a little coating. Once it dries, before you put it in the gang box, once it dries out, come back the next day, it's like brand new.
Oh, wow.
And it kind of putting that little coating on there helps, some of the stuff to where it won't stick to it once it's dried out, of course. You don't want to saturate it, just a really light coat.
That's an interesting concept. How come a tape measure doesn't have like a wiper seal on it? Kind of like a little piece of rubber to where it can squeegee itself off as it pulls in, because it seems like that's how it gets destroyed.
Yeah, if you got a heavy enough spring, you could probably do that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because how do you? These are all the problems that we have to figure out. That I like that.
We got to do that. Back to the drawing board. Whip out the computer program. Let's design something.
Well, and I take a lot of inspiration from looking at tools that we use every day, and how can we make it just a little bit better? And I like hearing that. Like I said before, every tool can be made just a little bit better.
Yep.
How do we do it?
I think my three, well, I'd have to say four. Usually I have 4 tools on me or within arm's reach on any project that I'm building, and that is I use a carpenter square or a framing square, also, or I'm sorry, a speed square. So I love a good speed square. And I think what Milwaukee did is they took one and they cut it down. We did a video on how to build them for the inside of columns and stuff, and then everybody's in the comment section like, Milwaukee already builds a cut down version. I was like, well, shit, I had no idea, man. I've been building these things for years for people. But I would say a speed square, combination square, tape measure, and then a good utensil. And I haven't really come up with a good, other than the old fashioned soapstone, what's the best thing to mark your material with? I really like I think if Milwaukee with their Inksol, the Sharpie version that they have, I think if they did an ultra fine point, they'd really be onto something, but their fine point isn't fine enough. And the Sharpies don't last as long. And gals, save your money. Don't buy the heat resistant Sharpies. They dry out by probably the 3rd use, even on cold material. They don't last, but a regular Sharpie, I think, is probably, the best for most applications. That and the trusty soapstone.
Yep. That Silver Streak. I've been using Silver Streak, but you have to be really delicate with it.
Yeah. And I used the Mark All Pro, and that was great for a long time. And then all of a sudden, it just I'd put a brand new piece of lead or whatever, that soft Silver Streak material, put that in there, and then I'd click it about 3 or 4 times, and it seemed like it was breaking off every 3/8 of an inch. So I don't know if it was something with the mechanism on the inside or what, but it's great, but it's too soft.
And I've even come back to just using a carpenter pencil.
There you go.
On some stuff. Just nice, good old-fashioned carpenter pencil, because the lead lasts forever.
Yep.
Just make a big, heavy scratch in it. I think that's another issue that needs to be solved, is marking on material. How can we fix that problem?
Yeah, there was one that I was going to look into. It's called a Pica Dry, Picadry. I don't know. I seen an ad for it a while back on probably, I think it was on Facebook, or maybe it was an advertisement right before a YouTube video that I was watching. But that thing looked pretty promising. So I've been wanting to pick one of those up. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it yet because I keep getting let down when I buy new marking utensils.
That sounds almost like another good YouTube video content. Just buy 20 different marking utensils and just start testing them.
Yeah.
Do all the product testing for us.
There you go. Especially on greasy material or, something like that. You just get off the mill, even cold rolled. It's hard to see a Sharpie on cold rolled material. So I'll use different colored Sharpies for different things that I'm doing. Just, because you want to be able to see going back to the lighting issue. Most places you got, what would you say was 130 or 160 candle foot candles?
Not even, probably 40 to 60 foot candles.
Yeah, so most shops are probably 20 to 30. So you almost need to walk around with a freaking headlamp. I had a buddy that, he was building his shop, and he's like, hey man, I've got all this stuff figured out. I got the machines, I got my step up rotary and all that stuff, so I can convert my power, so I can run all my 480 stuff. He's like, I've got the, I gave him recommendations for different tools. He's like, okay, I picked up the saw, I got the welding machine, the table, the tools, what am I missing? And I was like, well, they're actually building your garage, your workshop. What are you doing for lighting? He's like, oh, I got, 4 of those tube lights. And I was like, double it, triple it, quadruple it.
Yep.
And, because you have those bay doors that his bay doors kind of roll up and then cover the ceiling. I was like, mount lights on your overhead door, because when it comes up, it's still in almost one full piece. It's got a couple hinge points, but I was like, we're down here in Florida. He's not putting air conditioning in there. You're gonna need a breeze. Mount some lights to your garage door so that when you open your door, now the lights that you're blocking, you still have the lights. So
I never thought about that.
He kind of he put all. Door. Oh, dude, I love walking into his shop because you can see everything. But yeah, lighting's a big deal when you're dealing with marking instruments, because you make a mark and then you're like, damn, where'd it go? You can't see it anymore.
I'd love to see pictures of what his door looks like when it's closed. Well, even if it's closed, it's probably still functional too, because the light's probably kind of coming in from the side.
Yeah.
That's neat. I've never seen a garage door with lights on it before. I'll have to Google that one.
Yeah, check it out. There's
That's neat.
I thought it was a pretty neat design. I didn't tell him to, but I was like, just make sure you have enough lighting in there, because that's the one thing that's gonna suck.
Mm-hmm.
You can never have too much.
About.
Yeah, you can never have too much lights in there.
And with LEDs anymore, you can put a lot of lights on one circuit.
Yeah,
because they're so efficient.
That's the ones that I put in my garage. I think I can put 5 or 6 of them together on one outlet. So I got 2 of them just to test it out. I like the way that they're looking, so I'm probably gonna get another, I don't know, maybe 5 lights and kind of daisy chain them all together off a couple of probably 2 different outlets. Just because they're so bright, they're so energy efficient. It's not going to cause a spike in the electric bill with lighting up the garage, and then I'll be able to see everything.
Yeah, I think in my home garage, like Costco is having those LED light bars.
That's where I got them.
25. Yeah, Costco. Yeah. Those things are great.
Yeah, they're awesome.
You just daisy chain them together. One plugs into the next one, and off it goes.
Yeah,
you can spend $200 gets you a lot of lights.
Yeah, that's my nighttime instructor. He's like, hey man, I bought these extra lights. I ended up buying too many. If you want to buy them, I'll sell them to you. If not, I'm going to take them back to the store. I was like, yeah, let me give them a shot. So I took them home, plugged them in. I was like, yeah, definitely. He picked me up a couple more. So, yeah, I think lighting is a big issue in any shop. For everybody.
Yeah. I'm even using a couple in my machine shop now. I have them actually standing vertically to help me illuminate some machines when I'm filming, just because they're so versatile. Mm-hmm. And I'm not worried about breaking the bulb or anything, because it's just plastic.
Yeah.
So it's cool. Oh man, lights. No, I can't wait to show you the new lighting in the new shop. You're going to be pretty impressed, I think. It's going to be hard to explain to people the light, how it feels inside, unless you've experienced it for yourself. So another perspective is outside on a cloudy day with overcast, you're looking at about 600 foot candle on a cloudy day. So on a bright, sunny day, you're like on 1,000. So no matter what, I'm not going to be quite as bright as daylight, but it's still going to be pretty bright in there.
I just got through. We were talking about the doing the honey-do list and everything before the show. That's one thing that I've recently done, is went through the house and replaced a lot of the fixtures with the LED bulbs that, but it's the daylight color. I prefer that white light that it gives off versus that yellow. Mm-hmm. I hate yellow bulbs. We bought a new chandelier and put the bulbs in there, and they're like, right on the pack of the bulbs, it says bright white. And I was like, okay, cool. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And I put it in there, and I was like, damn it, these are the wrong bulbs. I want daylight, because it gives off that nice bright white light. I like being able to see things.
5,000 to 5,400 K is what you're looking for.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the number. I'm not a lighting engineer, but that's 5,000 to 5,400 is what you're looking for on the bulb.
Okay.
That'll give you that bright white look.
Yeah, that's what I like. I got that going on in the garage now. I'm slowly putting my garage back together, like, getting it set up to where I can do more projects and stuff. I've just accumulated too many fun things over the years, and I got to make space for it.
Absolutely. You have your shop wired. Do you have extra wiring in there? 240 outlets?
No, I need to do. I got to unplug my dryer whenever I want to fire up my machine.
Oh, sheesh.
I've got a buddy though the guy that I was telling you about with the lights in his shop, he's going to come over, and I have enough room on the circuit panel and everything where I'm probably going to drop another 230 volt in there, just so I can have a dedicated line for my welding machines.
That's good. Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat. We've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Plug the dryer and run it through the house and then.
I'm lucky because my dryer's right in the garage, so I've got a 75-foot 230 volt extension cord from when I used to do all my work doing mobile welding and stuff. Just because you can never get close enough to where you need to work. So I just kind of use that and just leave the majority of it kind of coiled up out of the way, and it runs great.
That's good. Yeah, you're lucky you had the outlet in the garage at least. Yeah, that's great. I think that's what scares a lot of new welders. If you're new to welding, they just don't have the power.
Yeah. And
what machine do they get that they can start welding and get their hands dirty? And the 110 stuff is coming a long way. And I remember when 110 machines, you could barely, strike an arc if you're a little stick welder.
Yeah.
But they've come a long ways.
Now, especially with like the
perform-
inverter technology and everything, and then the fact that, most of the machines that are available that, they're dual voltage. So if you got 110 now, you're going to get 230 later. You can at least start messing around with it before, you get into, before you have the power capability. Everybody's got 110 somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, do I want to invest in upgrading my circuit so they can try it out? Yeah, I like that. But for me anymore, it's like I'm happy the new shop's got 3-phase power. I don't know if I could do without 3-phase power anymore. It spoils you.
Well, I mean, you've got a lot of equipment that requires it too. I mean, you've got the water jet and the big sanders and the mills and all the lathe and all that stuff. So you need a lot more power.
You do. And like what you're describing with your washer dryer, that's what I had to do with my machines, is unplug one machine, plug it into the outlet, because you just can't have everything on one circuit.
Yeah.
So I was like, my lease is up. I'm out of there. I'm going to find someplace else. I don't have to do that anymore.
I think that's the three things that, you should really, so like talk about that, because I mean, what were some of the things you were looking for when you were moving? Because I mean, I've got a lot of listeners that, they're wanting to go off on their own and get their own shop. What are some of the big things that you need to be thinking about ahead of time, starting from a small business? Because I mean, you started small and worked your way up, and you're still continuously growing. But like, if I was going to go out first time and I'm going to go buy a shop or lease a building, what are some of the design requirements? Because I don't want to put a bunch of money in doing upgrades. What should I look for, big deciding factors in a building?
So I'll get into that in a second. The first problem I have, at least in my area in Washington, is that the marijuana growers are taking all of these facilities that have a lot of power. So, or if anything that's relatively 4,000 square feet or bigger, they are swooping them up and jacking up the prices. So, because these guys need a lot of power for their lights and everything. So it limits us little guys when we actually need the space for what it's designed for. But if I was going to, again, things that I was looking for is a door height of at least 14 feet. I've noticed several times just getting a forklift in and out of the building or backing up a truck to your garage, having a taller door for unloading material so a 14-foot door.
Good point.
I know it gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
But
I didn't even think about the door.
Yeah. The door. And just even something weird as how the door opens. Does it roll over the top, or does it go up the wall, or is it a roll-up door? Just look at its function, how it works, because that can get in the way a lot of the time. The power. That was my big thing, is you want 3-phase power, but that's something that I consider a necessity. And I was kind of hoping for, when I was looking, it was 400 amps of 480. I think you can do a lot with that power limit, but it's not necessary per se. But you can have multiple people or multiple machines going on and have a lot of capabilities. So for instance, just the water jet machine takes up 100 amps of 480. So if you only have 200 amps in your machine shop, that water jet's running, it's hogged all of it, so you got to be careful there. Other things I would love to see, ask about the concrete thickness. Is it a 3.5-inch slab, or is it a 6-inch slab? Those are, because when it comes down to fastening tools or putting heavy equipment in there, is your concrete going to be breaking, and are you going to be liable for the damage if it cracks? And even just drilling into the floor for wedge anchors. If you're starting your business of what's going to happen. So ask about the floor thickness, and they're always going to tell you it's a 6-inch slab, but don't believe them. And sometimes you can ask them if you go and drill a test hole, possibly, if you're really serious about signing the lease. And then of course, lighting can always be added on, but it's normally on you to make those improvements. And sometimes they won't even let you take the lighting with you. But the lights in there are important. And now this day and age, I'm in favor of even a security system, because I'm always a little bit nervous about security as far as somebody coming into your facility and walking off with your tools or equipment. So sometimes that's something to ask. Sometimes your landlord might be able to provide that for you. And in my day and age is, can you get internet? Like the warehouse I'm in now, my internet's pretty sketchy, and I'm a little bit worried about that on what am I going to do as far as YouTube videos. So can you get high-speed internet? Because in this day and age, you're going to be needing to move information back and forth regardless. What other weird things do I think about as far as necessity goes? Heat. That's another thing. Having good heat, at least where I'm at, something to keep you comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable, then you're not going to be productive. So an adequate heat source. A wood stove is, you can get by, but you're going to spend more time probably feeding it than actually being efficient. Mm-hmm. So look for some central air. And I'm lucky in the new facility that I'm at, I have floor heat. So the whole shop's just going to be warm all the time.
Oh, nice.
So that's quite a luxury to have. But you have to be careful with floor heat because you won't be able to drill. You have to really be careful where you drill into the floor, so you don't hit any of the PEX tubing that runs inside there. So that's something to consider too. Oh man, I could keep going on and on and on. But I mean, some of those are luxuries, but some of those things you kind of need to be paying attention, and it might be a deal breaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's, some things that people need to consider going in, because I mean, you're going to make an investment. You're going to sign a lease for, a year, 2 years, 3 years. So you kind of got to make sure that building is going to be able to fit for you currently, and then growth. Because I think a lot of people, they don't understand that if you, once you start your business or your company or whatever, how fast it can actually grow. If you're putting out good quality products, you're staying on top of it, and you're investing into the company, your building could grow faster than you're actually ready for it. So I think plan for the space ahead of time, plan for the growth. So if you need, 2,000 square foot, maybe go with a 4,000 or 6,000 square foot to kind of plan for that growth over the next 2 years. You got material storage, you got equipment, you're probably going to be bringing in other employees at some point, kind of plan for that growth ahead of time before you sign that lease.
Yep. And what I didn't realize when I got into the building that I'm in now was it had some power in there. Like it had power, but it didn't have power, the power wasn't distributed throughout the building. And that alone costs, $20,000. By the time you pay for materials, wiring, the electrician come in and put it all up for you and make sure it's passes code, because your landlord's going to want a certified electrician in there. He's not going to allow you to do it most likely not as a tenant. He's going to want certified electrician. So plan on some power upgrades costing you quite a bit of money if it doesn't have it already. So it's an extra cost that you may not be figuring into. And I was sticker shocked the first time I got in there, how expensive it was to upgrade that place. Yeah. And you will not get that money back. It's pretty much theirs. It pretty much will stay in the facility. So it's a little bit an eye opener when you're first starting out. That's a big investment up front.
Yeah, it's got to be a little bit of a bummer. You get in there and then you realize, well, I've got all the power. It's just not where I need it. Okay, well, let's just run some conduit.
And if you like you're welding in the middle of the floor, it's like then you got cords you're dealing with. If you're gonna try to just pull cords from the wall, that's sometimes not realistic, because you need a forklift driving through there, or you're bringing material by. So some of it's gonna have to come overhead. It's like it gets expensive. The electrical side of things is always sometimes I wish I was an electrician because they make big money.
That's we're actually designing a new facility for our school, and that was kind of one of the things that I took into consideration putting that together. Is I'd rather have my electrical outlets and my air compressor outlets come in as drops on extendo reels from the ceiling. Mm-hmm. Because you're right, you got forklifts coming in, you got people moving bottles and cylinders in and out on carts, you got people moving machines around, the tables that we're going to have, they're going to be on wheels. So everything's kind of modular. So, you're going to be, there's a lot of wheels to concrete on the floor. You don't want cords hanging everywhere.
Right.
So like all of our electrical connections, everything's going to be, just kind of drop in the area that we're going to need them.
Yep. That's handy. And another solution, I'm lucky that the shop I'm in now actually has boxes in the floor that has power conduit in it. So if you're in a general vicinity of 15, 20 feet of this floor box, you can actually pull power right out of the floor.
Oh, kind of like the convention centers and stuff like that.
Yep.
Nice.
So it's like, okay, this is really cool. So I think this facility is designed for an overhead crane, so that was going to be a problem.
Okay.
So you can't have overhead power coming down. So it needs to come from the floor,
Gotcha.
Which is pretty neat. So I'm just think about, if you're building a new shop, put a floor box in there that you can drive over. They sell them. It's like a structural power box that you can drive your forklift over. And if you're not using the power, just got a metal plate over it, but you can plug right into it if you need to.
So are you going to have
floor power?
You going to have an overhead crane in your new facility?
I would like to eventually. Just finding one at a good price. I can't obviously afford a new one, but maybe I can find a used one that I can install. I think that's something. It's going to be. I have about 50-foot span, which is quite a ways. I know they make them, but 50-foot span is something I'm looking for.
Okay. They're pretty handy. They're nice to have. It's definitely depending on the type of business you're doing. It could be a luxury or it could be a necessity.
That I think that will be the only thing the shop will be missing is an overhead crane. Then I'll think I'll be in the best shop I've ever worked in. Mm-hmm. So, but I'll save up for it, and maybe a year or two down the road I can put one in this facility.
I know they got some pretty neat like mobile modular cranes that you can kind of like operate on a forklift or like a pallet jack type frame system, to where you can kind of move it around like you would a pallet jack, but it's an actual crane.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're pretty slick. I was pricing them out, and I was like, I probably can't afford that. I was looking for something because we have a plasma cutter at the school, and it's not in the most ideal location. So to get material in and out, it's always like, a juggling act. We can get the forklift so far down the bay, and then we got to kind of manhandle it. So we're limited, it's not like I can take, even though I can cut a 1-inch thick plate, I can't put a 4x8 sheet back there easily. It becomes an ordeal to get it done safely. I mean, we've done it, but
the material, you're right. Material handling for these plasma cutters and water jets are something most people forget about. Is how do you deal with these heavy pieces of steel? Mm-hmm. and you got to get them up to that elevation and get it onto the table safely. And you can lift maybe one sheet once, and then you'll never do that again after you hurt your back.
Yep.
So I don't know if you've ever hurt your back before, but it's not something that anybody ever wants to go through. So use a proper lifting device. I built one of my early YouTube videos, a cool crane for my buddy Reed that attached to his ceiling and the floor that swiveled up over for his plasma cutter. And it works really slick. He absolutely loves it. But that's something to think about when you're buying one of these machines, these CNC machines, is how you're going to lift your material.
Yeah. I think the magnets and stuff that you use, those are neat.
Oh, without the magnet, that is the best thing ever.
Do you have the suction cup too? I mean, you don't do a whole lot of work with aluminum.
Nope, I don't have a suction cup. I need to invest in one for that reason. But yeah, you always, what do? You attach some Bessie clamps to it and strap it up and make do that way.
The old Armstrong bridge clamps and stuff, those work really good. Yeah. I've done a lot of, I don't know if I'd say sketchy stuff with one of those clamps, but I mean, they hold. I mean, I would trust my life to an Armstrong clamp.
They're great. And I know that's not the right tool, so it's like I'll just have to invest in one. Yeah. But what else? I don't know. It's fun reminiscing about ironworking and all that good stuff. It's a blast. But I look forward to having you come on the YouTube channel and come up for a visit, and we can build something together.
I'd love to do that, man.
Challenge you and me to try something we've never built before.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty fun.
We'll have to schedule something for like June, July timeframe. I'll have some more time off from the school. I could fly out and go check out the new shop and everything.
I look forward to that. That'd be great.
Yeah, we'll have to
come
set
up with something fun.
Yeah.
Something that people wouldn't expect to see. Like, what? They're building. What are they doing that for? Oh, yeah. Okay, they're doing it for fun. An automatic tree chopper downer or something. They do things like that. It's called a chainsaw. Like, no, we want a axe swinging automatic machine.
There you go.
something weird that's just let our creativity go wild.
We got some time to come up with something. I was really looking forward to the go-kart race they were going to do up in New York last year.
Oh, at Dresda's. Yeah.
That would have been really cool.
That would be. I saw some rumors. Maybe they're going to do it again this year.
That'd be neat.
If they are, sign me up.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, I could see you guys building something on the weld.com channel for that too.
That was kind of the plan. It didn't go over.
Yeah.
But if they're firing up again, it might be a possibility.
I'll have to DM Jimmy and see what his plans are for that. Because if that's the case, I need to get started on it right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm a slowpoke when it comes to that stuff. That's cool.
Well, cool, man. Before we get out of here, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you, where they can find your products, and all the great outlets that you're available at.
Yeah. If you're looking for any welding squares or clamps or tools, you can go to fireballtool.com. Or you can check the tools out on Instagram at also fireballtool.com. And then you can contact me through the website there, and we can help you with shipping. Or if you're not in the United States, we ship to Australia and Europe and Canada too. But yeah, and the YouTube channel is also fireballtool.com. And I'm always doing something crazy fun on the YouTube channel. And I try not to be a salesman there. I love to build stuff and share it with everybody. So follow me there and to see the current project on the building, which I'll be doing some updates about that and the move that's going to be happening in the next month or so.
I'm looking forward to checking that out.
Yeah. Can't wait to show it to you.
All right, man. Thanks again for coming out, bud.
Thank you, Jason.
All right, folks, that is all I have for you this week. Once again, thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to check out Jason's YouTube channel and tell him that the Arc Junkie sent you. You can find me on Instagram at Junkies Podcast. You can email me with questions, comments, and concerns, show@arcjunkies.com. And you can check out the all-new Arc Junkies website and pick up some Arc Junkies branded merch at arcjunkies.com. All orders will receive a free sticker pack while supplies last. Thanks, everyone, and until next time, make every weld better than your last.